Welcome to 10-Minute Type Advice by Personality Hacker. I'm Joel Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
This show features questions from the Personality Hacker community that we answer in about 10 minutes. We've been using personality types in our coaching for years, and we'd love to answer your questions about personal growth through the lens of type. You can find out more about us at personalityhacker.com. Okay, now let's hear today's question.
Hi, I'm a female in my 30s who tests as ENTP. Relationships between women in our culture often revolve around the ability to discuss mundane details of relationships and sympathize with the emotional experience of each other's daily events. As an NT, this can be taxing at times, forcing me to operate in a way that can be really exhausting. So how can an ENTP woman support her friends without having her resources completely drained or becoming very bored?
Thanks, Elizabeth, for the question. So as an ENTP woman, your experience as you're reporting it is that other women expect you to show up talking about the details of their day and life, and especially the emotional experience they're having about those details throughout the day. And so your question is, how do I, as an ENTP woman, relate to other women when this isn't my natural state? This isn't naturally what comes to me. And you're in luck because we've got an ENTP right here across the mic from me, and Antonia. She's figured all the secrets out, right, Antonia? you know it all now.
You're kicking this one over to me?
No, I'm not kicking it over to you. I'm saying you've got all the secrets. You figured it all out, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. In fact, this is something that I also struggle with, which is unsurprising. But I will say that I've figured a couple of things out, which I can share. It doesn't mean that I've cracked the code by any stretch of the imagination, but there are things that I have done in the same situation in order to overcome that sense of, boredom or feeling emotionally taxed and exhausted. So what I'm hearing the challenge really is at its core is this idea of conversations are not mentally stimulating with friends. They are mostly about things that are, I heard the word mundane, the mundane details of relationships and the emotional experience of daily events. And so those two things are going to put an ENTP in their tertiary 10-year-old cognitive function and their 3-year-old or inferior cognitive function. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the mental processes that juice up an ENTP and make them feel the most alive and the most like themselves are the functions that put them in an intuitive, abstract, conceptual space. The intuitive part of an ENTP is the dominant or driver function, the biggest feature of an ENTP, and that is a function technically called extroverted intuition. We call it exploration. And then for an ENTP, what completes that or really kind of dictates the kinds of things that will be the most stimulating is the auxiliary, or what we call co-pilot cognitive function, which is effectively its complement of introverted thinking, or what we call accuracy. So intuition and thinking are going to be what juice up an ENTP. And unfortunately, a lot of conversation that is the most interesting to other people, particularly women who have a high degree or the highest demographic of type within women, have a preference for a sensory experience and for feeling. So that's what I hear. I hear feeling emotional experiences, relaying them, gelling on that element or that aspect, and the more sensory experiential piece, which are the experiences of our lives and what we remember about them, and sharing those components. So it's not surprising that there's going to be a little bit of a, kind of feeling like you're out of your sandbox a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of feeling like other people are super fascinated by stuff that's not that interesting to you, or that you can't really feel, you can't take a big bite out of and feel like it was a good, nutritious, conversational meal. So to some extent, the challenge is demographics. It's that ENTPs are a very small percentage of women, and SFJs, which are the exact opposite or opposite type, are going to be the highest percentage of women. And then there's going to be a bunch of in between, right? Not just SFJs, but a lot of other women are feelers. I think it's like 70 to 75% of women have feeling preferences. and about 25 to 30% of women have thinking preferences. And so because of that, even if the friend isn't an SFJ in the Myers-Briggs system, there's going to be a high likelihood that they're still very fascinated by emotional content and very interested in the more mundane aspects of an experience. Now, we're calling them mundane. We're just saying that they are not conceptual, right? They're the business of our lives. They're the things that we experience on a daily basis. They're not like the peak moments. They're not these things that live outside of the general gist of our lives, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not something that fuels the ENTP mind. So there's two different things you can do. Well, there's probably a lot more than two different things, but this is what I have, basically sussed out. The first one is I have to make sure that in my rotation of friends, I have NTs or NFs or STs. I've got other kinds or varieties of friends that will make sure that I have those kinds of conversations I'm personally looking for. So I have friends that have thinking preferences that are sensors. I have intuitive friends that have both thinking and feeling preferences. And usually I can kind of sort of pull them into my vortex of the style of conversation I want to have. Now, not always, not everybody's that fascinated. I would say that the highest likelihood of the kind of conversation I want are fellow NT women that have intuitive thinking preferences. That is going to be the highest likelihood of getting my conversational nutrients met. And then from there, I would say intuitive feelers are the next. Oftentimes, I'm doing a lot of the talking, and they're kind of interested and fascinated by what I have to say. But then at least I get to talk, right? And I obviously enjoy hearing myself talk.
I'm nodding right now.
Right. And so that's helpful. The other thing is that an ENTP, it doesn't matter what your gender is, as an ENTP, you're learning as you're talking. That's one of the reasons why talking is so rewarding, is you get to hear yourself say things out loud and go, yeah, that's actually what I think, or no, that's not what I think. And so having a variety of friends to ensure that you're getting a lot of different nutrients. Right? I keep referring to conversations and friends as meals, which is, I don't think it's a completely inaccurate analogy, right? Because these conversations are part of what fuel us. Our friendships and relationships are part of what fuel us. And we need to have a lot of different nutrients. These sensing feeling friends, right, if that is the highest percentage of your friendship group, and that's one of the reasons why you're having these experiences, they also bring different styles of nutrients. Like those are the kinds of relationships that I have that are very grounding for me. Remind me that there is a bigger world or a broader way of looking at things than just what is interesting to me. It reminds me that the quote-unquote mundane experiential elements of life are actually important, and that the emotional content that happens in our lives, like the natural drama of life, is also something that I should be paying attention to and thinking about. But it doesn't give me all my quote-unquote conversational vitamins. So I do need to have more variety of friendships and conversation. The second thing that I have figured out is I'm really good at problem solving and turning things into puzzles. So I'm talking to somebody who wants to discuss the challenges of relationships or how things made them feel emotionally. I do that thing that the old gender stereotypes used to accuse men of doing. I immediately get into problem solving. I go, oh, well, have you tried this? Or what do you think about this?
Do you mansplain, Antonia?
What are you talking about? We built this entire business on me mansplaining.
But you're a woman. How's that possible?
That's what personality hacker is. I actually think mansplaining, I think I've said this before, I think mansplaining is also NT-splaining, but just when the NT is a man. But yes, I do appreciate doing that, or I have a tendency to do that. And so, so I like to bring it into my sandbox, which is going into the problem solving and the conceptual aspect of it. Now, if I just jump into that, I find that people are a little put off, right? Because the assumption is that we're here to emotionally support each other, not jump into a problem-solving frame. And I recognize that. So what I'll do is, as my friend or a group of friends starts to talk about these kinds of challenges, I will just directly ask, Is this a moment when you want me to just hear you and listen, or would you appreciate looking at it from a solution, like a solution perspective? Like if I throw out different things and solutions and ways of looking at things, will that be offensive to you? And I know that that's a very direct way of doing it, but I have learned that when I do that, and the person goes, no, I'm okay hearing some of your solutions or problem solving it or whatever. Well, now they've left the door wide open. They can't be offended if that's the direction I go. And most of the time, people will go, well, I need to feel emotionally supported first, and then I can have that kind of conversation. And then that's all I have to do is show a little bit of emotional support, which I think that ENTPs, I think all humans are capable of some emotional support. But then I know that after the emotional support time period is complete and they feel heard, understood, held, etc., then I can go into the problem-solving component, which is far more fascinating for me. And they've agreed to it. They have given me their consent. And here we go. I'm off to the races. And that makes it a lot more interesting. And so I think for me, it's just a lot about being direct. It's about asking people what they need from me so that when I provide something that I assumptively believe will be as, welcome by them as it is exciting for me to present, and I'm wrong, which is a lot of the challenge, is that, all these missteps that we make. I just start from the beginning setting expectations or finding out what their expectations are. And oftentimes they'll go, yeah, that's cool. Let's go into problem solving. So the first thing I've learned, again, is have a wide variety of friendships, have lots of different conversations you can have, appreciate people for what they bring to you, quote unquote, nutritionally, that they remind you to not be one-sided if they have more sensing, maybe feeling preferences. And then the intuitive thinking styles will, light up your brain in the way that you're looking for with resonance, and make sure you've got those two handled and everybody in between. And the second component is to just be direct, just be candid. Go, what is it that you're looking for from me in this moment? Is it just emotional support, which I can do, or is it problem solving, which is actually more my sandbox? And by the way, if you try to set those expectations and the person finds it off-putting, that's not a problem for you. That's a problem on them. That's somebody who just wants everything to be on their terms and organic and wordless. And I personally cannot survive a relationship that requires me to do things always on their terms and not have any sort of conversation around it. I have to set expectations verbally. So if a person's like, well, you should just know. I'm like, listen, I'm not a mind reader. I can't just know. So if you are not okay with me being candid and setting expectations through articulation, then maybe this relationship isn't working for the both of us. I'm meeting you all the way on your terms, and you can't meet me halfway back. So that is that in and of itself is a way to vet. So I don't know if those will be helpful, but those are the things that I have discovered, and hopefully they will work as well for you as they've worked for me.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for the question. You can ask your own question about personality types or personal growth. Visit personalityhacker.com/questions. We also have programs designed to help you with your personal growth through the lens of personality types. Again, visit personalityhacker.com and find the program that's made just for you. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
Thank you for listening to 10-Minute Type Advice by Personality Hacker. We'll talk with you on the next episode. If you're focused on personal growth, I think you'll resonate with our core content over at personalityhacker.com. We want to see you understand how your mind is wired so you can generate motivation, improve social skills, find career opportunities, and master excellent decision making. But a quick warning, we are advice and action focused in all of our articles, podcasts, and videos. This means that we attract people who like to be challenged to become excellent, to take action, to put in the work to optimize themselves, not simply just gather more information. If you are committed to personal growth and ready to radically find your inner truth, then come over and be a part of our growing community of like minds at Personality Hacker.